Hi, it's me again with Corel Draw Tips and Tricks, and somebody sent me this Corel file and they want to turn it into a DXF, and I haven't really heard back from him 100%, but I'm pretty sure he wants to cut this out on a plasma table, so he needs to make it into a stencil font. But before I start, a couple of things you need to do when you're setting up your page. Turn this to 0, 0. He's new to Corel, life will be a lot easier. You're working in CMYK, you've got your fill as a gray, so whenever you draw something, you're filling in with gray. That's not necessary or really would be irritating. So with nothing selected, double click on that, and I would always use RGB even though it doesn't really matter, and I would put no fill and put OK and on graphic. And then that way, when you draw a box, you draw a box. Now, also you're drawing in 500 points, and if you're a plasma cutter, you need hairlines. So with nothing selected again, double click on your pen tool and go to red hairline. It doesn't have to be red, but red to me signifies a cut line, and you'll be a lot better off. So, talking about the font, I've taken the font completely apart by each letter. It's still an Arial. I might even change that. It might have been a regular Arial. Let me see if I can get to a regular Arial. I think it was regular Arial when I started it, so that's pretty close. This thing is less than 1/3 of an inch tall. That's going to be very hard to cut out on a plasma cutter, these little details. So I'm hoping that's not the case. I'm hoping it's going to be better, bigger. But what I would do is select all this and change it into Arial black if you can. It's going to make life a little easier and a lot better for your plasma cutter. If we look at this now in wireframe, and you could separate these two letters that are actually too close together. You can either do that or you can make them one letter. So they're still a font. You can see I can't do anything to them. So I'm going to go to Object and convert them to a curve. And as soon as I do that, I can start doing stuff like that. Now, you could use that for your plasma cutter. Of course, I'd fix that little node right there, maybe even just delete it and add that. Sometimes it will disappear, and add that. You could do that. I would actually take it, if you're going to do that, take the Smart Fill tool and fill it in with a color, and see you've got it set on half a point. So let's back up here, take the Smart Fill tool. We want to specify no outline. So then when you fill it in, you get an outline, and we can nudge that out of the way. I don't know where it went 6 inches off. And then left click, right click, and get rid of this one. Now that's only if you're gonna leave those two letters as one letter. It'll look pretty cool as a plasma cutter. Now, we're going to do this one if you weren't going to do that. So we've already broken it apart, and with the shape tool, we've already turned it into a curve, so the shape tool is not going to work. And just move it out of the way a little bit, and then you can move that one out of the way. I'm holding down the control button so they'll be perfect. And then there's your two letters, and the same thing with the M and the X. On this font, Arial probably wouldn't have been that bad, so you need to, this would actually help you in cutting, if you did this, if you did this scenario, and your customer might even like it. Now, this needs to be a stencil font, and that's really only depending whether you're going to put this as the letters, or are you going to cut the letters out of steel? If you're going to cut the letters out of steel and have a hole, then you need to make a stencil font because that's what the hole is going to look like. And you won't be able to tell the A and the R. Now, but if you're cutting out the letters, which I actually prefer to do, and then weld them on top of another piece of steel, you don't have to put a stencil font because that A it'll look like this. So we're just going to take this, and this is what it would look like out of steel. And in this case, this will help you, and you could just lay the letters on and tack them from the back or drill holes in the back piece and weld them. But if you're going to cut them out and have it readable, you've got to have a stencil font type deal. So we're going to draw a dash, and we're going to make it at least a quarter inch wide. See, your letters are so little that I'm afraid it's going to burn up. So we'll just make a little dash. Hopefully it's going to be bigger. Now you want to use the same dash repeatedly. Let's make it just a small little. And then so I would make a duplicate of that, and we'll figure out where to put it on the Y. So let's just select all that and see what happens when we weld it. That looks pretty good, except for it didn't weld all the way. But you're always going to use the Smart Fill tool to fill that in to make a new shape. Smart Fill tool makes a new shape. The R, a little bit more difficult. You could actually squeeze this in. You don't want it in the other part of the R. And we could weld it again. And that's not what we wanted. Well, I tell you, I didn't have the placement right. You actually have to go through 2 points. You could have it up here and then weld this, and see I'm having to grab both letters to do that. And then the same thing here, just cut that line out. And that would work. In this particular R, it would probably look better from the top than on the bottom. The one thing that I want to say is once you get a letter done and you want, see, that isn't going to work on this case because these are separated. But let's go with, and definitely you don't want the zeros that close together. So let's do this. Let's take the zeros and just holding down the control button and just move them. So let's say that's what you want. Here's a little trick you can use. See, I didn't save that box because you want to make all the cutouts the same. So let's do that and make a new box and weld this. And you know what? Let's try something else. Let's try selecting it, and intersect isn't going to work. Front minus back isn't going to work. Nope. You're going to have to weld and then cut that out. Now, what I'm trying to get at, well, that isn't going to help us at all. I keep forgetting that you need to have this all the way through. And then weld it. So this is a lot of work. And in this case, this didn't work. What am I doing wrong here? Nope, that didn't work. Let's do front minus back. There we go. That's what we want. Now, what I was trying to get to, if you want to use that O over and over again, this one's separated. So what you can do is hold down the shift key and draw a rectangle around that item. Just get rid of this one. Well, you need to select the rectangle or the O. And this is what's so cool, make a duplicate of that. So hit the plus key, hold down the shift key on your rectangle and go EC, and it'll put it in that exact same spot. So when you're going to use that O again, let's say you're going to use it down here, same thing. And this could, this is going to be true for every letter. It's a pretty neat little trick to make all the letters look the same. I'm moving that and holding down the control button. So if you look, I'm going to grab that hold down the shift and double click the rectangle tool. I'm going to go ahead and do both boxes. Hold down the shift, hit the rectangle tool. No, it didn't work. There we go. Then get red, and you can tell that you're on the hairline of the black. Now we can see that we're on the box. Now we're on the hairline. So now we can take this O, make a duplicate of it, hold down the shift and hit CE. Take this one, hit the plus key on the keyboard, hold down the shift and hit CE. So it's putting those zeros exactly where they need to be, but you've copied them. Same thing with this, the pound sign or the number sign. You know, this is where it's, on this particular one, you know, maybe angle it a little bit. Put it in there. I'm not going to take a lot of time. And that's what we want. And the same thing here. We want this one to be the same. Hold down the shift, double click on the rectangle tool. Go ahead and get rid of the pound sign, and you can see we're on it. Make a duplicate of this guy. Hit the plus key. Hit the shift key to select them both and go EC. If you do your number first, it'll always go toward your number. So there, you know, here we got one more. So you haven't had to do it all that many times. Hold down the shift, make a box. You know, this might help. Let's set our nudge factor on 1 inch. When we're selecting this, hold down the shift and make a box. Our box is selected, we can nudge it over 2 inches. Then we can easily pick this and nudge that back. And then hit the plus key on your keyboard, hold down your shift, CE, and you're done. And then and you could even nudge that out of the way. So maybe pick a different font where you don't have to do all this work. And then you always, in plasma cutting, you always got to look at the nodes. That is perfect. You can't get any better than that. That's pretty good. We've got some double nodes right here that we get rid of by hitting delete. Well, we need to, you know what? I never probably smart filled this. So let's smart fill that, move it down, get rid of this, move it up, left click, right click. Now let's look at our nodes. Those should be clear to see. Now there's only one node. Now, you can remove some nodes as long as it doesn't change the shape of your item. That didn't change any. This is probably going to change. No, it didn't. That's going to be a lot cleaner cut. The less nodes, the better. You're probably going to have to keep that. It's amazing that doesn't need those nodes. So the less nodes you're going to have, like those 2 nodes right there, that's a straight line. We don't need a node there. You can't get any better than that right there. I hope I answered all his questions, but trying to cut this out that is less than 1/3 of an inch, that's a lot of cutting. That's a lot to be asking. It can be done. You know, a lot of people do it with a fine tip cutter, but just buyer beware. Anyway, hope that helped him a little bit. Thank you for watching.